Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Godzilla film podcast episode. We have now finally entering the Millennium era of Godzilla. The 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 last episode I did was the TriStar film that I did with Nick Herbert. That he did an amazing job in that episode as a guest. And Nick, if you are watching this, I want to thank you again for joining me in that episode, and hopefully I'll have you again on my show someday and all that. And but anyway, so before I get to more details about this classic film and with the special guests who are going to be on here, that I was let you know that for these Millennium era films, I mean, they each have their own separate film that is due to the original Godzilla film, which means they're not sequels. That are not like the Heisei era film or the Shona era. They each got their own separate film remake that are just related to the original. So they're just they're like from each they're from each different universe. Yeah, so you know that. And but anyway, so on to the show. So we have two special guests on here this time, which I haven't had two special guests since I have Terror of Mechagodzilla. Please welcome to our two special guests here, Kaiju Kim and Daniel McMahon from the Godzilla Novelization Project. How's it going, my Kaiju family?
Good evening.
Good evening, Brandon.
Good
How are
evening.
you, my friend?
Yes, quite.
How are you, my friend? Huh?
We meet again, Mr. Bonds.
I want to suck your blood. Huh?
Oh, please don't do that. I need my blood.
Welcome to Dracula Cast, everyone.
And I don't say blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There's a movie I haven't seen in a long time. He doesn't either. That is true. He doesn't. I've seen almost every Bela Lugosi movie ever made. He never said that.
Yeah, well, so yeah, long time no see, guys. You two are my, were in my show before. That Daniel, I know you were in my Godzilla versus King Ghidorah episode back in April, and that was actually a few months ago. And Kaiju Kim, you were on my Godzilla versus Megalon episode back in January.
Indeed, I was.
Yeah, so. And I'm glad to have you guys back on my show. So since you two did an amazing job in my previous episode, and I thought, why not do an episode together to talk about our favorite Millennium film of all time? That's the one that started it all, is Godzilla 2000 Millennium.
Yes.
The best. The best. The original plan was for Kim and I to engage in violent blood sport together and to see who would get to talk about it and ultimately decide who loves this movie more between the two of us. But I love Kim, and I didn't want to beat her up. So and honestly,
you would lose anyway. So
no. The thing is that Kim terrifies me. She would drop me like a bad habit. She would take me down. So it was more self-preservation, but
she was not like that in my Megalon episode.
Not at all.
Don't be ridiculous. Kaiju Kim is a sweetheart to all of us,
and she and I love this movie so much. So I'm really happy that we both got to come on and talk about it.
Yeah,
and as much as I love it, I'd have felt bad if Kim couldn't come on and talk about it either, because I know how much she loves it too.
Oh, I would have been jealous, but
yeah,
it worked out.
Yeah, and this was actually my first Millennium era film I ever watched as a kid. My very first one before I discovered the other Millennium films, and I can't wait to talk about it with you all, and hopefully there won't be any glitches or any problems like in my King Ghidorah episode. Remember that, Daniel? And at the very end.
Yeah, the Futurians attempted to hack our stream, and it all went wrong. But we got through it just fine. If anything weird happens, we got you covered. But I think we're gonna be good, unless the Millennians hack us.
Yeah, I think that might be coming.
Yeah, well, kind of like Biollante affected me with her pollen power, or Space Godzilla affected the connection, or the
yeah.
Well, before we get to more details, and before we get to talk about the film and the two different cut versions and how we discovered this film from our childhood. But first, the guesses are in the comments. We have Walter, how's it going? And we have my Kaiju brother Nick. How's it going, bro?
What's up?
And we have Doomzilla.
Doomzilla. Woo!
Yeah. The guests are here.
Woo!
The gang's all
The
here.
groupies. That's
Yeah,
it.
so I'm gonna ask you all some questions. How you two discovered this film for the first time? Try to remember back from your childhood, like how you first discovered it in stores, and so since there are two of you on here, let's start with Kaiju Kim. Ladies first.
Of course, yes.
Yes.
So, when I first discovered this film, I was in a movie theater for another film. I don't remember what film it was, but I saw a trailer for Godzilla 2000 and my mind was blown. My little 8-year-old self was like, "Oh, Godzilla is coming to the big screen." And not the 98 one because that doesn't count. But
Yeah, because that one's not as good.
I mean, like it has its merits, but I digress. But yes, I actually had the privilege of seeing Godzilla 2000 on the big screen when I was 9 years old, and I saw it with my family. It was fantastic. It was everything I wanted in a Godzilla film. It was beautiful. I love this film so much.
Oh, that's a very good memory you got there, Kim, and it's too bad I never got to see this film on the big screen in theaters because this was that was like a few years before I discovered Godzilla, because I first discovered the Toho Godzilla back in 2003, which I already give details before back then, and in my previous episodes and our friends' channels, and yeah. So, like, since you already since you give a really good memory of yours, that how you discovered it, Kim. Next up is Daniel. How do you discover this film for the first time? Like, try to remember back. You saw it in theaters when it first came out, or did you saw it at a local video store when you rented on DVD or video?
So the story of how I first saw this film is the story of how I became a Godzilla fan, because this was my first Godzilla film.
Oh.
So it's yes, I started out strong, and it is one of the clearest memories I have of childhood. So no latency. It feels like I can remember it like it was yesterday. And it was a bit unorthodox. I didn't see it in the theater. I didn't even know it had a theatrical screening I was 5, 6. I was little. And it was coming off of the post 1998 hype. That next 2 or 3 years, people were still kind of talking about it. And a friend of mine, I was in first grade, and he said, I got a Godzilla movie. You want to come over and watch it? And I'd been kind of curious, as curious as a 6-year-old can be about something like that. Big dinosaur sounds cool. And this is the cool part, I'm assuming he had the DVD, which had just come out. And he had a projector and a big screen in his basement. So it was like a little mini theater. Nice. And he puts this movie on, my first exposure to Godzilla proper. And I will never forget that the Nomuro attack, when you see him silhouetted with the fire behind him, and you hear I know there are no words for how that made 6-year-old me feel. To this day, I watch that film and I'm 6 again. I instantly remember what it was like. That will never leave me. The unfortunate part is that I got about 2/3 of the way through the movie, the moment when the UFO flew away again. That moment, and you see the UFO for like a second flying over the screen, and then my dad had to take me home. So I didn't finish the movie.
that
Oh,
sucks.
yeah, it
Oh.
was, dad had to go home, so I had to go home too. So I missed the end of it. So for
Aw.
years, it felt like years. It was probably only a year, maybe a year and a half. And it was in my head. I'm like, what happens at the end of this movie? I have to know. It was like, I don't know. When you're a kid, you think about it. I never tried to write an ending. I just paused the movie in my brain and waited. And finally, again, about a year or so later, it felt like forever because I was 6. I went into my local media play and found this.
Nice.
My childhood copy of
I
Godzilla
remember that
2000.
VHS.
Yes.
I
I love the texture of the Godzilla on the
Yes.
on the front. Oh, I want to
He's
touch it. I can feel it.
like
just
the
looking at it.
sensory memories
Yeah.
alone, right? Like it's
Yeah,
great.
I-
It's so good.
See, the
love it.
DVD doesn't have
oh,
that.
that's a classic.
No, it doesn't. And it doesn't have that raised texture. The tape was so good. Get ready to crumble. Like it's
Let's
makes my
get
heart happy.
ready to crumble.
Yeah. Bought it, took it home, watched the whole thing. To this day, it is still my favorite of the bunch. I love all the Godzilla movies for different reasons. My first full Godzilla movie was Mothra versus Godzilla, because after I saw this, I went and told my mom about how amazing it was, and she brought me to my local library and we rented a pile of them. So I saw a few more before I finally saw the end of this one. But this one, to me, like, I don't care if I didn't see the end of it. This was the first one, and to this day, it is my favorite. It is my favorite one. I love it. And it is the reason I am a fan. This movie is the reason I am a fan. Absolutely. I owe it a lot.
Yeah, well, that is a very interesting story, Daniel, and it's so sad that your dad had to take you home early, right in the middle of the film when you're
Godzilla blocked.
Godzilla Dad, why, Father? I'm never gonna let him live. I bet he doesn't even remember. I'm gonna tell him that. I'm just gonna go over and see him one of these days, and I'm gonna look at him like,
Why, Father? Why? Don't
like, son,
My dad never.
son, what are you talking about? Oh, I think you know. You know what you did. My son, I actually really don't. Think back 20 years ago.
My dad never does that to me back then. Whenever time I'm watching the middle of a movie, but I don't know if he did. I don't remember.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay, all the laugh is making me dizzy.
Don't pass out on stream, my friend.
Okay.
I won't.
You might have to take over, Danny.
All right. I have to be the emergency host here for a second. There you go. I'm gonna get a drink too.
Might as well.
Yeah.
Well, that is
Drink
a very,
Water, everybody. Did you drink your water today?
Yes.
yeah. Well, we got our water bottles.
Yes.
We're like
People in the
We're like
chat, drink your water.
Yeah, we're
Drink
like
your water.
we're like the 3 water bottle stooges.
We are. Drink your water, or the UFO will open fire. Do it. Do it.
Do it now.
Do it now. Do it. Fire.
Sorry, Arnold. I know you're listening, Arnold. I apologize. Arnold. Love you,
Apologies
man.
to
I
all
love you,
streams
Arnold.
everywhere.
Don't. It's all
Yeah.
fun.
This stream is almost turning into a comedy.
But when you get me and Danny together, it's over.
It's this is the rest of the stream, my friend. Just
Oh yeah, well,
we're gonna be goofy together. It's all good.
yeah, well, anyway, so what was that? Oh yeah, and I would love to talk about how I discovered this film for the first time. I mean, I didn't watch this film in theaters back when it first came out. That was way before I discovered Godzilla, until I discovered him back in 2003 when I first discovered the 1985 one. But I think a year later, I think it was a year later that I first discovered this film. First, let me tell you a very strange story. I mean, before I discovered the 2000 film, I remember when back at my Christmas back in 2003, after I first discovered in 1985, when I was unwrapping my Christmas present from Santa he gave me Destroy All Monsters Melee, and when I was playing it, that the Godzilla, that's how I discovered the 2000 Godzilla in this game. For a moment, you're gonna laugh at this, that Godzilla in the video game, I thought that was like the TriStar Godzilla, but I was wrong. But I thought that the TriStar Godzilla, or Zilla, whatever you want to call it, I mean, that I thought that was like the 2000 Godzilla in Destroy All Monsters Melee video game. I thought he was that character, but I think a few months later that I was at this Blockbuster store, and that's at my grandmother's location. That I was at this Blockbuster store with my grandmother. I was trying to see if I can find some Godzilla films to find, and all I find is the TriStar Godzilla, and right next to it is the Godzilla 2000. Right next to it, I was shocked and surprised, and I realized I thought the TriStar Godzilla was the character from the video game as Godzilla 2000, but I was wrong the entire time. But I didn't rent it this time. I mean, I didn't rent it at the Blockbuster video store where my grandmother was, but I think a few months or a few weeks later, when I was at my local mall store, I was shopping with my mom, and I went to my local movie store called Suncoast. I think that used to be exist.
Coast. I remember Suncoast.
That was a chain. They were everywhere.
Yeah, that is like the same store that I discovered the double DVD of Space Godzilla and the Destroyer!
Destroyer!
I think I have that disc in a pile somewhere.
Yep, the same store I discovered the double DVD and the other Godzilla films, and I finally found Godzilla 2000. I was begging my mom if she can buy this for me, and she did. So I took it home and I watched it. I'm like, so I wouldn't stop looking at the TV when I put the movie in. I just watched the whole film. It was like amazing that now this Godzilla looks exactly and more like the Melee video game from my childhood. So far, that's all I can remember how I discovered this film for the first time. And that was actually my very first Millennium Godzilla film.
It's a good one to start with. I've actually talked to quite a few people who, when I mention Godzilla 2000, the first thing they say is, "Oh yeah, the one with Matthew Broderick."
No,
like they think that's Godzilla 2000. I mean, they're not fans. I mean, it's fine. It's an easy mistake to make if you don't know. But I've talked to a lot of people who were like that. Like, which one's your favorite? Godzilla 2000. Oh, I saw that one. It stinks. It's got Matthew Broderick in it. We don't like that one. I'm like, no.
You're incorrect, sir.
Incorrect. Incorrect.
I got mine right here.
Yes. Yes, we all have the same one. Yes, we all brought our three Godzillas.
Brought our toys. Yay.
Including this guy.
3 Godzillas. What does it mean? Oh yeah, I've got my Orga here too. He's gonna be. I had a couple.
I don't have Orga, but I do have.
Regenerator G1.
Yes.
I have seen this toy around, and for the life of me, I can't remember what because it comes with something, right? Does it come with something, or is it its own thing?
I don't remember. I think it was my friend Laura Fitkin. She sent this to me for my birthday a few years back.
Okay.
So I don't remember what it came with.
I love it because I have all kinds of crazy gods. I have a theatrical one-sheet poster from the when it opened in theaters in America. I have all kinds of Godzilla 2000 stuff. I have nothing of the Millennian. I have no Millennian. I love that little figure. He is awesome.
I know he's really cute.
I'm so glad you have him. He's so cool.
I wonder if I
So
could
cool.
find that little guy at G Fest.
Maybe he might.
You might be able to. You might be able to. Michael. Oh, you know what? Michael Hamilton in the chat coming
Michael
in.
Hamilton.
It was from the. Okay, it is
Michael
it is-
Hamilton.
It is a Rick extra from the X Plus Orga. That's what I was thinking of. I knew it came with something, but I couldn't figure out. So I guess whoever sold it to you had the Orga and maybe didn't want the Rick bonus stuff. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Danny Boy, the Queen of the Fabulous Empire. Whatever this means. But we have to do it.
What do you say, Fabulous Empire? You gotta have the
We'll do this.
hand motion.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate the insight. I was having a brain fart on that one. It's like, what is this thing? But that is a great little Millennian. It's one of the only Millennian figures out there. Like, they just don't make them, which is too bad.
I want.
Yeah,
I don't have an Orga.
yeah, and
I'll add it to my G Fest list to look for you.
Thank you.
I'll look for a good price because they are getting pricier. The Bondi ones are getting pricier, but they're beautiful. Let me sort of. There we go. Here he is. There he is. Yeah, this figure is just outstanding. It's one of the best ones they did. The paint. Look at the detail on this thing.
So fabulous.
It's beautiful. And then I just got this in the mail.
no way.
Yes.
Dude.
This is YMSF's brand new Mutant Orga. And the only way to get this is you have to message the guy who makes them directly on Facebook and he'll send it to you. And
or I can go to your place and borrow it.
It's an option. It's an option. I wouldn't recommend it personally just because I love it and I would be sad, but it is an option. But yeah, like the spines, and then obviously, if for no other reason, then you can do this.
I was just gonna say you gotta do it.
You gotta do the thing. I'm hoping just to display them like that because I have an extra 2000 that I figured I'd use. I'd just stick it in his mouth. But yep, there you go. I'll probably pull these out at some point while we're talking about the movie. But
yeah,
there he is.
And I would like to talk about before I get to the two cut versions of the film and about the original Japanese cut and how it happened after the 98 film. And I want to talk about Orga first. And because he was created by the Millennium spaceship that was sank into the ocean of, it was like 100 years or 1,000 years.
That was millions of years.
Millions, like 60, 70 million years.
Yeah, it was down there for a long time.
A long time.
Yeah, where sunlight couldn't hit
where
it.
the sun don't shine.
Where the sun don't shine.
Yeah, and because when the scientists discovered the massive ship and when it was trying to lift it up to the surface, it just lifts up by itself. I mean, I think it's because there's like sunlight ahead. I mean, I don't remember. It's just, I don't know if it's like free from the volcano forests or that's attached to it. I mean, I don't know, but hey, there's my very first Godzilla fan friend here. How's it going, Mr. Monster Man? That was my very first Godzilla fan friend.
Nice.
But anyway, so like, yeah, it's so the Millennium ship. It's like a prehistoric alien ship from millions of years, like you said. I mean, it's like it was landing in the sea like during the time where the dinosaurs exist. I mean, and I thought that was like why it was all covered in rocks in the middle in the sea for thousands of years. And we all know that the reason why it was rises up, lifted up straight, because it was following the sun when it was rising. Like, and I love the music in that scene. Yeah. And yeah, when it was rising up, it was following the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And because when it's all, it makes me think in my head that when it does that, when it's like straight enough, straight after it followed the sun, and it always makes me think this old classic video history that that monkey chimps that has this wall in the middle of the desert and has the sun shine on it, and all the chimps are just touching on that wall. I mean, I don't know if you guys
Oh, are
know
you
it.
thinking of 2001: A Space Odyssey with with all the 8 people in the monolith,
Oh.
or am I thinking of something completely different?
I'm not sure. I thought this makes me think of a history from a film that is, but it's something to do with some sort of chimps that are curious about that wall that's attached to the ground in the desert when the sun hits on it. It's like
Sounds like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
but I'm not sure. I don't remember what it's called, but if you guys know what I'm talking about, let me know in the comments below.
I am almost 100% certain that is the prologue to 2001, where this monolith, this big black wall, appears in the middle of this rocky desert terrain, and all of these ape people, they kind of look like chimpanzees, discover it, and it just causes their brains to develop, and they start attacking each other with bones because it basically, like, something about it changes their brain chemistry, and they start developing culture, and they're curious about it, and they're poking at it, and they're wandering around. Footage from that pops up in other places, but that is, unless maybe what you saw was a parody of it, it's been parodied before. But the beginning of History of the World Part 1 parodies it, but it's been parodied in a few other places.
Oh, I also forgot to mention what I was been talking about when the chimps say curious about that wall in the desert and the sunshine in it. I also forgot the music part of it, that classic music, like
Zarathustra. That's
you know.
2001. And that scene always creeped me out because you get the monolith that dun 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 dun, and then the spooky kind of like ethereal choir. They actually, this is funny, they used that chanting from 2001 in Godzilla 2014 for the Halo jump. It's the same music. So there you go. 6 degrees of separation. I just brought it back to Godzilla.
Nice. Well done.
This is what I do instead of leave my home. In case anybody was wondering. There you go.
So this Millennium ship, Toho said that there's just aliens who are in the ship. I mean, because there aren't really aliens. I mean, I don't know. They're just called the Millennians. I mean, they're no aliens in this film. We all know that. It's just a flying UFO sort of shape that is trying to wants to become a form monster, but as we all know in the film, that the ship was trying to study Godzilla and studying its cells or DNA, and because in some scenes say that when the UFO is just hacking into people's devices trying to study Godzilla, and then it just flies on attached to a building above. It's trying to hack all the electronical computer devices. It's just trying to get to know Godzilla and trying to become like Godzilla. But what I heard at Toho, when they were making this film, I mean, they were gonna have another Godzilla monster clone again, but they decided they used it too much in their previous Heisei films. But they decided to go with a new monster, Orga. And well, before we get to Orga, I mean, I want to talk about that when the spaceship absorbs Godzilla's DNA and it becomes regenerated G1 or just Orga's first form or whatever you want to call it. That form, they first of all, this film uses a lot of CGI in this one, and And I gotta say that the Regenerate G1's, I mean, Orga's first form, it just looks so weird looking, and he's he just has his big blue eyes, and he's trying to become like Godzilla, but unfortunately he just takes on a different form, which he becomes Orga.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I love the design for both of those monsters. The idea behind it, I always thought was interesting because Godzilla 2000 to me isn't just a good Godzilla film. I love the core sci-fi concept of this movie on a plot level because you have this ancient spaceship with creatures that have been inside of it so long that they don't have physical bodies anymore. And that is that blew my mind as a kid. That's a crazy concept that this thing has been down there for so long that whatever is inside doesn't have a body anymore, which is why it needs Godzilla's regenerative cells. And there's a moment in the movie when the Millennian creature comes out, and it's this big blue tentacle creature, the true form of whatever's inside. Visual reference incoming. There he is. He's beautiful, the Millennian.
Hey, yep, that's what I'm talking about.
I love it. There's a moment in the movie, and I think it's even better in the American cut because of the sound design, which we'll get to, where he lifts up his tentacles like he's like, yes, I'm back. And then there's this moment where his head starts to pulsate and move, and you can see it in his eyes that something, like, the monster realizes that something has gone wrong. He just wanted his body back. The mutation into Orga was not planned. You can tell it was not a planned thing. He kind of makes the best of it. And this is what you ultimately get, this half Godzilla, half alien hybrid thing that just gets more in Godzilla as it goes along. But I love the idea that the plan didn't quite work, but it ended up working anyway because now he's got this cool body. I love Orga.
Me too. And like I said, when he was going for his transformation in his first form, he was like, and I love the CGI effects of the first form, and he's growing big tentacles and growing arms, and his second form, he just collapsed on the ground after he grew into his second form. He just collapsed. And
yeah, and I love the moment where, like, it's kind of quiet for a second, and then Godzilla, he's like, after he just destroys the ship with his atomic breath, and then it's quiet for a moment, and then he's like, wait, what's going on? I say, something's over there that's not right over there. And then you see Orga step out, and then the music pops in, and that's such a great moment.
Yeah, and what I heard, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but while they're making this film, before they begin filming, I mean, Toho creates so many designs for Orga. There are many sketches. I mean, there are like almost a lot of them.
There are a lot. An easy reference would be go to TohoKingdom.com and look up their concept art section for Godzilla 2000. I have some Godzilla 2000 art books and some mooks and I have the theater program that came out, and there's some concept art in there, but they've really gathered a lot of it. Some of the designs for, like, all the stages, like, okay, yes, there it is. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That is the theater program book, and it's just amazing. But the ship went through a lot of different iterations. The Millennium did. There are dozens of Orga sketches. A lot of the designs for this film were done by Shinji Mash Nishikawa, who I want to say a lot of his designs ended up going forward. But some of the stuff that they had him draw or that just came out of his brain, just wild stuff. I think they ended up with the perfect creature at the end of it, but they had to refine it. And wow, they went through a lot of designs because there's so many different ways. When you say half alien, half Godzilla, you could do anything with that.
Yeah.
The potential's limitless.
Yeah, there's so many sketches. There was even one that they kind of added and trying to make it more like Godzilla, and it has like a little rounded shell with spines in the back, and there's so many designs of Orga, and for years, I thought all these years, I always thought that if Orga has pupils in his eye, but I realized all this time I was wrong, but Orga doesn't have pupils in his eye. They're just all white and yellowish looking and all
Very
that.
weird, uncanny. And obviously the toy is a lot simpler because they didn't have they can't mass produce a bunch of very intricately drawn pupils, but the eyes in the movie are spooky. They're spooky eyes.
Yeah. It's almost like it's staring into your soul.
Yes.
Right into your soul.
And Mr. Monster Man says that the sound effects for Orga in the US version are better than the Japanese version.
You know what? Overall, I think the sound design in the American cut is much better. And
yeah, I gotta say that the US war version is a lot sound better. And I hear it was who created the sound effect in the US version. It was created by a woman who is related to this guy named John Adams. I forgot her name was.
Give her a raise, because she did one of the only times I could count them on one hand where I think on a purely objective level, not just nostalgia talking, I think that the sound design on the American version kicks the Japanese version's keister. It does.
It really, really does. Because I was actually watching the Japanese version earlier just for reference. I watched the American cut last night and watched the Japanese one today, and I felt like something was missing for some of these scenes. I'm like, wait, where's the footsteps? Where's the destruction sounds? Where's all of that?
It feels oddly silent. It feels quieter than it should be, because we're so used to the American version. But there are so many moments where a foot falls and you don't hear anything, or a monster's mouth opens and you don't hear anything. The moment I mentioned before with the Millennian, where it realizes something's going wrong and it starts to move its head as its body pulsates, it makes this roar sound in the American version of shock. But in the Japanese version, there's no sound at all. It's just Hattori's score, which is a great score, by the way.
Yeah,
great score.
I even think that the Robinson music that was added, the American, I think that improves the film.
It really does.
John Peter Robinson.
Yeah.
I can say the music he did in the US cut is such an amazing job. He does an amazing job at doing the music score of this. Like, it sounds so much better and so awesome. And also I want to talk back to let's talk back to Orga's War. I mean, I know that in the US version it was created by John Adams' daughter, and for the Japanese version, his war was actually a stock war from Cretaceous King Ghidorah from Rebirth of Mothra 3.
They just reused the Mothra 3 roars, which was common for Toho during the Heisei era. I mean,
was it Mothra 3? Or I thought it was just Ghidorah from Rebirth of Mothra 1.
It was the third one. It was Cretaceous King Ghidorah. Just Ghidorah had that very elephantine Gamera-esque roar.
Oh yeah.
Cretaceous King Ghidorah has these kind of more squealing screech sounds. If you have the Godzilla 2000 soundtrack, I have it. I bought it off iTunes 1,000 years ago. But they have some sound. I think the CD version has it too. They have a collection of sound effects for Orga, and they're identical. In the Heisei era, Rodan's roar was used for 3 different monsters before he used it. They used it for King Ghidorah, Godzillasaurus, and Batra. So reusing roars like that was pretty. Even back in the Showa era, Anguirus and Mothra technically have the same sound. Some of Space Godzilla's roars are Gigan's sounds slowed down. So reusing roars like that, whether they edited them or didn't edit them at all, as in the case for Orga, was relatively commonplace. But I think the roars used in the English version are a lot more. They're
so much more fitting.
Menacing.
Yes.
The American sound effect version, or guys, just fits perfect.
I don't know how they did it, man, but the perfect storm with the additional music, the additional sound effects, the re-editing. There are a couple of obviously there were cuts made, scenes were removed, and maybe a few. I think there's there might be like a perfect cut in the middle there somewhere if you combine the sound design and music
I was
of the
just gonna
American
say,
version.
as I was watching both of these versions, I was thinking like I should take both of these films and just recut it and just make a Japanese
Yeah,
version.
and we
I would
already
always,
and
I've always wanted to do that, but I don't know
yeah,
how to do it. I don't know how to make one of those. You do.
I do.
You could do it.
and they already used one of these Godzilla films before, like for the Shona era, and including the the two classic ones, like the original 1954 Godzilla and Godzilla, the Return of Godzilla, or whatever you want to call it. They re-edited those films and turned it into their own American version, and both. Well, first the 1954 and the 1984 film, they just re-edited them and added American actor like Raymond Burr, but and they also did the same thing to some of the Shona era films. So they just re-edited them and trimmed some few scenes and and this film they kind of for Godzilla 2000, they kind of did the same way for like they did for the Shona era films. That some of them, like, and this is like the first Godzilla film they ever re-edited and released in U.S. theaters, and since Godzilla 1985.
Yeah, and it's an odd one because I mean, Godzilla, the history of Godzilla in U.S. edits, not just dubs, edits, it gets complicated quickly because you have very different films with added footage like KOTM and 1985, and then you have bizarrely dubbed and edited movies with a little bit of added footage like Gigantus and man, Gigantus, movies that are completely re-edited like King Kong versus Godzilla and with American footage as well. And then as things start to get like Ghidorah, the three-headed monster doesn't have any American footage in it, but it's hacked up and rearranged. And after that, they didn't have the budget to do that after a while. They didn't, AIP TV was just like, nah, just give it to us. We'll throw it on TV. We don't have the time or budget to shoot new scenes and do all this crazy re-editing. But this is the arguably the only time where the cuts and the re-editing and the tightening of the pace and all the additions actively benefited the film.
And that's exactly what Doomzilla said in the comments here.
Yep.
I agree with him, to be honest. The cuts in the
Yes.
US made the film tighter and combined. Yeah, it made the film pacing much better, like quicker, got to the point quicker. And again, the sound design was better. It was just all around better film.
I think it's the only time where, again, objectively, not just me being nostalgic, this is, I think, the only time where a foreign cut is superior to the original cut in the entire Godzilla series. I like the Japanese version. I'm not trying to
it's not like bad.
No,
it has its merits.
Yeah, it's a perfectly wonderful version of the film. It's the same movie, but it's
it is the same.
It's got stuff in it that a little bit of fat that could have been trimmed, and the American edit did the fat trimming for them. And I don't know how blasphemous it is to say any of this, and frankly, I don't care. But this version. I'm not going to say it's like the definitive cut, but I think it's the objectively stronger cut of the film. I think that's pretty undeniable in a lot of ways. And I know there are a lot of fans out there who will not watch the dubs for whatever reason, but this is one where I think that even people who are strictly subtitle people would get something out of this version because it's different. And again, there are things missing. That like there's a moment where Godzilla's spines light up and he's almost about to blow his breath, and then the army attacks him and it gets cut off. The entire moment where the Millennian is broadcasting words like enslave and conquer, kingdom, and it's popping up on the screens. I love that part. I kind of wish they'd kept that. It might have thrown off the pacing that they were able to kind of like reconfigure during the ending, but combined with the music, that's chilling. I love that part. Like I think that would have been good in the US cut, but most of the other little trims are
Are you talking about the scene when Godzilla is almost about to do his atomic breath on the chest, and his spines are glowing, and yeah, I say that's for that one scene when they do a close up on Godzilla's face. When he was there was some of his heat breath coming out of his mouth, and this close up shot that is only shown in the Japanese version, but not but it was cut out in the US. But you could still you could still see it in the US version, but in the trailer at
Yes.
the end.
If you can't take the
Take
heat,
the heat,
run.
Oh, I loved that line.
What a great line. This movie had some great, like, get ready to crumble. You know, that's easy,
Yeah,
but
I love
like, it's so good.
Like I love the US movie trailer of it, and it has the awesome music. It's hey, that's the one.
Yes,
that
it's
was
got
amazing.
like this like very metal.
Yeah, I don't
know
remember
what that, I don't know
what
what that song is, but
yeah, me either. I don't know.
worked. It worked very, very well, oddly enough. But yeah, if you can't take the heat, run has to be the
Yeah,
best.
I bet the
best
audience.
tagline.
I bet the audience in the comment will know what that song is from the movie trailer.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't know, if anybody does know, let us know. And if you don't know,
Super Beast Rob Zombie. Thanks, Godzilla.
Yeah. That Rob
Super
Zombie.
Beast. It was okay. There you go. That explains that. Rob Zombie's one of those people. Like I have not listened to a lot of his music. I respect him in a lot of ways. I feel like he and I could sit down and have brunch and talk about the Munsters because we both love the Munsters. But
Yeah, and
if he asked me what his favorite song of his was, I'd be like, I don't know, man.
Just say Dragula.
I'll just say Dragula. I don't know how many times he's gotten that one.
and so Goji fan 1998 says brought us up about the suit. The Mirror Goji suit was crossed between Sodia Goji and
Shodai Goji, King
Goji, and
Shodai Goji.
Yeah, it's kind of like the King Goji from King Kong versus Godzilla, and of course the eyes and the kind of looks like from the 1984 Goji. It kind of does look similar, and
maybe that's why I like him so much. That's why I like this design so much, because King Goji from 1962, King Kong versus Godzilla was my very first Godzilla movie that I've ever seen. So
nice.
I have a nostalgic connection to it. So, his eyes kind of remind me of that a little bit. I don't know if, right? So, yeah.
He's got the same hunched back. He's got a similar positioning of the eyes, like halfway over the upper jaw, because the mouth gets slit so far back toward the neck. Like,
yes,
can we just gush about this design for a second?
Can
we gush about how freaking perfect of a Godzilla this is? My goodness. So
yeah, I love this Godzilla. It's like, and they used this suit 2 times in 2 films, including this awesome video they did. They used the same suit, and they kind of used that suit in this awesome video that he was fighting with Anguirus and King Ghidorah in this video right after Godzilla Final War came out.
The Pachinko video. That's a great one. I wish that had been its own movie. So the Godzilla 2000 suit, which is technically the Godzilla 1999, because the movie came out in 99, but it's called Godzilla 2000. Miragoji. It's almost identical to the Giragoji that came out in 2000 for Megaguirus, but there are subtle differences. They did rebuild that suit.
Yeah, they.
It's got a green sheen to it.
But
that's cool.
I don't mean that. I mean, they didn't recreate a suit. I think they just redesigned the head, because you can
they modified it, but it's a different design, kind of like how they're like the naming structure for the Godzilla suits amongst fans is a bit weird, because technically Bio Goji and Gido Goji are the same suit, but one of them is modified, so it's the same suit but 2 different designs, if that makes any sense. So Mira and Gira Goji are technically the same physical thing with alterations, but they have 2 different design names, because we like to make things difficult. That would be why. But and they did rebuild. They did build new parts. Like their underwater rigs. Like for Godzilla 2000, there is no underwater or swimming version, but they built one for Megaguirus. And
Yeah.
I mean, those two suits are beautiful. So
And
yeah,
and there was this one scene when Godzilla was swimming. That's actually the first time they ever made Godzilla CGI.
yeah, that was the only
Mm-hmm.
time when he wasn't dying that they made him CG. Because technically, the first one is Godzilla as he's melting down in Destroya, but this is the.
Why did you bring that up?
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sad stuff.
You
but
just remind Kim.
yeah, I'm sorry, Kim.
Yeah, and anyway,
I made Kim cry. This is the worst day ever.
I'm good. I'm good. We're good.
I
Continue.
know. Good. Okay. Good. Best day ever.
like, and
I know
gotta say,
people pick on that swimming scene with this guy. I don't mind it. I've never had a
yeah,
problem with the swimming scene.
some fans say that scene is the CGI swimming looks terrible.
It does look terrible, but I love it anyway.
I have no
Yeah.
problem with it. It doesn't. I tell you what. When I was a kid watching it on tape, I thought it was fine. I just recently, a couple weeks ago, was rewatching it. I was showing it to my godson. He has shown interest recently in watching Godzilla movies, so I watched this one with him. With my finger on the mute button for a couple of choice moments. But
Oh dear.
this movie's got some language in it, man. So
It does.
he's 5, so I was like, I'm not doing this. So
And
I was very quick on
when I play it for my niece, I just want to know a curse word's coming out. Just go.
That's what I did too. I would ask him questions about the movie and his favorite parts while it was going on.
and
yeah,
and they actually made Godzilla's size the same size in the Shona era to 50 meters tall, and they made him less smaller than the Heisei. I mean, they just made him the same size from the Shona era.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's a good reason they did that too, because Showa Godzilla was about 50 meters. This one's about 55, and the benefit to that is the taller you make your Godzilla, the smaller you have to make his miniature environment. And since you can't change the size of, as Goji Fan 98 here just brought up, Tom Kitagawa, who played the character, you can't make a guy in a monster suit bigger or smaller, so you got to make the miniatures smaller, which means that they're less detailed. And that was a problem that Koichi Kawakita ran into while doing the effects for the 90s films, because he kept beefing Godzilla up and making it bigger. And the miniatures in the Heisei era are, for the most part, beautiful, but there's not much, you can't go much farther than that without compromising the details of the miniatures, which would make them phonier. But the bigger you can make the miniatures, the more realistic the environment, which is why this movie looks so darn good, because it was the first time since the 70s that Godzilla was that relatively, I mean, small. He was smaller, but he was that size. And that's why the sets look as beautiful as they do, is because they were able to build them literally twice as big as they built them in the 90s.
Yeah.
It was a good move.
And sorry if I'm interrupting,
No, go for it.
but Tomomi Tanawa, I mean, I have a hard time saying this Japanese name.
Sutomu Kitagawa.
Sutomu.
Yeah, this is like his first Godzilla film he ever played as Godzilla, but he played Godzilla 5 times in the Millennium era, except for GMK.
Yes.
And
he's a cool dude. Have you ever met Kitagawa, either of you?
Yes, I did.
Did you this year? This year?
Yeah, at the
At
All
AMA.
Monsters Attack convention.
I wasn't there.
I know.
Yeah,
He's crying again. No.
But
oh man. But yeah, he's great. He was kind of like, he was the first Godzilla I saw move on screen in a movie, and he's amazing in the role. And before this, he was King Ghidorah. He played King Ghidorah. He was in some Sentai stuff. He played gosh, I want to say he was the Green Die Ranger. Is that right? Michael, you still watching? I'm pretty sure he was the Green Die Ranger. And he's been in some other things as well. He's been all over the place. He's a cool dude, and he's amazing as Godzilla.
Yeah, and I finally got to meet him for the first time at the All Monsters Attack convention. As actually, it was a month ago.
I can't believe it's only been a month. I feel like it was so much longer than that.
Yeah, and I finally and I ran into you there too. And
Mhm,
this is
mhm.
this is the second time we actually met in person.
I know, and I'm gonna see both of you here in less than a month for G Fest. I
Yeah,
can't wait. I'm so excited.
yeah, I can't wait to hang out with my best buddies and Kaiju
I
family.
know the Kaiju family. The
The
Kaiju,
Kaiju family.
I love it. That's perfect.
Yeah, and
Oh man.
also I forgot to mention that this Godzilla suit, they actually made Godzilla green for the first time. And because in the American DVD or VS chest covers, they always made Godzilla green.
Yeah, that was a long running thing. So you'll still see it. You can't see it from the angle I'm at, but I have the classic '80s Imperial Godzilla up here, and he's green as all get out. Hanna-Barbera Godzilla is green. All that. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah,
So this toy is based off of the 1956 King of the Monsters poster, where
yep.
he's green. But Godzilla has. It's one of those things where, and no, like people who've never seen a Godzilla movie will be like, he's big, he's green, he's mean.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
and
even that even confused me as a kid. I'm like, but he's not green. What do you
green.
mean?
yeah,
He's
and
not green.
but there was, but they did make Godzilla green in the Hanna-Barbera TV
Mhm.
show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
and which I never watched the whole series before. I only watched
But we
some
all know
of
the theme
the
song.
TriStar series.
Yes. Yes, they're both worth watching. They're
Yes.
great.
Yeah, and also Ghost Fan 1998 says Norman England makes a small cameo in this movie, appeared in the scene where people are running away in the city tower building.
Yeah, and ever since I learned that fun fact, every time I watch that movie, like, oh, there's Norman. I see him for like
there's
2
Norman.
seconds.
The
It's so
Millennium
weird.
films.
And
They're
I
fun to
just
watch because it's
like-
like, where's Norman? Spot Norman.
Like, oh, there he is.
yeah, it's so weird. I watched both of these versions, the original Japanese and the US. I watched carefully and so hard to find Norman in a lot of scenes, but I couldn't find it. It's just so hard.
It's
which
a
scene-
blink and you'll miss it kind of moment.
Yeah, he's not in it a lot, but like it is. He literally runs past the camera and that's it. It is incredibly like you got to kind of know it's coming to see it, or you got to pause the movie a lot. He has more substantial, cameos in the future.
Yeah,
Millennium
I believe
films,
he has a
but-
cameo in Tokyo SOS, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
he's
he did.
he's behind a desk.
Yes.
And
Yes,
yeah,
which
and
was funny to see that in theaters when it was in theaters here recently. It was like,
Yep.
Norman, it's Norman.
yeah, hopefully I'll get to have him on my show someday in the future, but who knows?
That would be
And-
cool. That would be cool. He is a fascinating dude to talk to. He has Have you read his book, Brendan? His book.
Yeah, I
know you have it, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I didn't know if
only-
you read it.
I haven't read it yet, but I just got his new book, The Ring of Fear.
Yes, which I've been meaning to get. I
I
have
need
been
to
meaning
get
to
that
get
too.
Yeah, I just got his
Yeah.
new book a few days ago, and yeah, it was awesome. I gotta read it someday, and hopefully I'll have my reading skills from my tutor.
Yes, indeed. They're worth. I mean, I haven't read the second one yet, but anything he writes is worth reading because he is not only does he have stories to tell, but he's very good at telling those stories.
He is. He's a really good storyteller.
And I'm glad all that stuff exists on paper now because his stories need to be passed down. I mean, this guy, for anybody out there who doesn't know who we're talking about, Norman England, to put it very succinctly, was doing set photography and reporting from the Heisei and mostly the Millennium Godzilla films and the Gamera films and stuff like that. So his set stories, I mean, the dude was there watching all this stuff go down. He knew the actors, he knew the technicians. His stories are amazing. Go get Behind the Kaiju Curtain off of Amazon. Like, I highly recommend that book. It is.
Yeah, you got. So the people in the audience, you guys should check out Norman England's new book, The Ring of Fear, and check that out on Amazon.com. And
also be sure to check out Norman's documentary, Bringing Godzilla Down to Size.
Yo, thank you for mentioning that because that film it's weird because it's almost lost media at this point. Like, it's not really, but it's getting there because it was the story behind that is it was supposed to get its own disc, its own special disc. And Something fell through with classic media, and it ended up being a bonus feature on the Rodan disc.
Mhm.
But that disc came out, kill me, 14 years ago. I'm ill. That doesn't that I don't like that. Stop the world. I want to get off. That's ridiculous that it's been that long, but that's the only place it was ever released. It pops up on YouTube sometimes, and then Toho says no ho and yoinks it. So it is. I think it's still on YouTube right now. So go, like, anybody out there. It is the best documentary on, got the Godzilla series and the special effects. Go watch it. Bringing Godzilla down to size. Mwah. Chef's kiss.
Beautiful.
So good.
Yeah, and also like, yeah, also let's talk about how Toho finally brought back Godzilla after Godzilla vs. the Destroyer, and of course the TriStar American version. And like, I think why Toho decided to bring Godzilla back in Japan, I mean, in their Toho studio, I mean, because right after Toho discusses with Roman Emmerich and D. Devlin they want to write their own Godzilla film, and after they made Godzilla in U.S. theaters, and when Toho watched it, and they've been hearing a lot of fans and people after they saw it in the theaters, they thought they both like it and some don't like it, and because the TriStar film was not as great as the original Godzilla, and then Toho decided to release this film in Japanese theaters for a limited time. I mean, and then Toho decided but before I get to that, I mean, before Toho discusses with Roman Emmerich and the others say they want to make their own Godzilla film, Toho, after they made Godzilla vs. Destroyer, they decided to keep Godzilla silent until 2004. Because they were planning to make a Godzilla film in that year for Godzilla's 50th anniversary. But after the American TriStar Godzilla film was released, that Toho decided they have a feeling that this Godzilla's film going to be more popular, and fans are going to keep talk about this Godzilla more, and they couldn't keep their original Godzilla silent all these years before until 2004. So they decided, why not bring Godzilla back anyway? And
they did a good job too. I mean,
They
the
did.
Godzilla 2000, to me, I've called it the I've called it Toho's rebuttal. This is their feature length rebuttal.
I was just gonna say the same thing.
Yeah. That'll be the name of my.
They're like, no. That's not good. This is how it's done. Okay.
Whoa. No. This is
Whoa,
how you
whoa,
do.
whoa. No.
Whoa. No. No. Not
No.
today, my friends.
Waka.
You didn't say the magic word.
You didn't do Godzilla justice.
Uh-uh.
I'm gonna feed you to a Dilophosaurus. No,
Wait, stop. Are
that's
there
what this was.
Muppets in this live stream?
Apparently there are now.
I don't know. Maybe there are.
We almost sound identical. Waka.
Regenerator J1.
Anyway,
Godzilla.
Drums!
that would be
Drugs.
yeah, that would be great. I would love. Listen,
The film was okie dokie.
there you go. That's the Erga generator G word.
Godzilla 2000 Millennium is all released in Japanese theaters. We gotta make our own American conversion.
We're gonna get sidetracked here. So what happened? Here's what's gonna happen. We got we had a conversation before we went live about not putting like pictures or video of copyrighted material. Disney's going to take the stream down because of Muppet impressions. Just wait.
Especially since yours are so spot on.
The impression, the VHS.
Anyway.
the VHS.
Again,
Okay, we're getting sidetracked here.
The year if
anyway, I can't.
Oh,
Well,
good Lord.
that's now on the internet forever. I'm sorry to my
You're
boss.
welcome.
I don't know, like if my friends, like if my employers ever see this, I don't know, I'll get a list.
You're fired.
That's it for me. That's it for me. But this is the rebuttal. Like all kidding aside, this is Toho saying, no, this is how you do it. Because like you said, they were going to hold off. They were going to hold off until the 50th anniversary, till 2004, and then maybe we'll do it. Because the original idea was for the TriStar movie to become a trilogy. They had a 3-picture deal, and this, like the second film had an outline done. They were set to move forward with it, but just nobody cared. Like nobody cared after that. The movie Godzilla 98 made money, contrary to popular belief. It was not a flop. It made money. It just didn't make what they were hoping it would. And nobody wanted to come back and do the sequel. So they let their rights lapse, but it was less than a year. And Toho decided, okay, here's how you do that. You see that thing you tried to do? This is how you do that thing right here. This is how that thing should be done. And it was a feature-length rebuttal. It was, that's the nice way of saying it. There are cruder ways of saying it, but I'll say rebuttal. That's what they did. And, I feel like it's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, the 1998 film is not, it's not like an unwatchable dumpster fire like a lot of people might say it is. It's got strong points to it. It's not a badly made movie, but it doesn't even need to be said that this is a better film. I mean, not even as a Godzilla film, but just as a film, come on. This is a better film.
Yeah.
It doesn't, that's like, duh. Like, it doesn't even need to be said. I said it anyway, twice.
There you go.
But
Yeah, and
there it is.
Yeah, and I can say that that Toho did an amazing job with bringing back Godzilla on the big screen, and this is the first Millennium era and film. I mean, but yeah, that what after this, like, yeah, that they first began making this film a few months after the 1998 TriStar Godzilla was released in theaters, and after this film was released in Japanese theaters, that the TriStar people saw this and they decided they want to make their own American cut version. And as you know, that the English dub in this film was done by Ami Productions, the same company who did some of the Heisei era films, some of them, and yeah, the people at TriStar, they just took some footage and they just re-edited the film to make their own cut version, and then they didn't add American actors in it like they do the Raymond Burr, and no, they just trim a few scenes and they just re-edit some sound effects to it, and I would love to talk about the sound effects and the trim scenes of this. And I just don't. I mean, I know I watched both cut versions of it, like the Japanese and the US. And for the opening, the original Japanese has just had the Toho logo followed by another Toho logo. But in the US version opening, they just had the TriStar opening with the horse, and they had the original Shona era style Toho logo to it.
That's my benchmark for you're about to watch a good movie when the Toho logo shows up, and it's like the classic one.
Toho logo.
Yeah,
Toho logo.
And I would like to, like, that one scene when they're in the beginning when they're trying to find after they set up the antennas and equipment and anything, when the people in the van is on this, I can't remember what their name was. Like Io and her dad's name was. Those names
They
escape.
just call him Shinoda the whole time.
They just call him by his
Shinoda.
last name. So Io Shinoda's his daughter. They just call him Shinoda-san.
Yeah. And then Yuki's
Yeah.
the photographer.
And yes, Yuki the
It's-
Grouch. Yuki the imbecile.
She is grouchy.
Yeah. Man,
she is a
you guys,
Grouch.
you guys really are imbeciles.
Oh, now that's just mean.
Imbecile.
Imbecile. Is this the imbecile rate?
What is the imbecile rate?
Imbecile rate.
Oh,
Focus student.
I would like to talk
Forever.
about the. I know they Io call her an imbecile. But in the Japanese version, she call her
Old lady.
Obasan.
Old lady, you're old.
Oh,
Yeah,
Batman.
Obasan. But if you watch the Sony Blu-ray with English subtitles, she call her Auntie.
Auntie. Yeah, that doesn't make. I mean, Obasan
Yeah,
or Obasan.
they're very similar.
Yeah.
It's like the intonations and the pronunciations matter if it's grandma or auntie.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
It's subtle, but there is a difference.
Mhm.
yeah, and I like the opening titles, like both versions. I would like when Godzilla's having the boat in his mouth, kind of like from the 1954 original, and he has the train in his mouth. But this one, he has a wooden boat in his mouth with his eye close up. But that scene, like when after his open his eye wide, and the title was released, and for the original Japanese, they just showed the original Japanese title, but in the US version, they just freeze his eye, and it just had a little light shining, and then the US title was revealed, like zoomed in fast, like that.
yeah.
But in the original Japanese, it didn't freeze Godzilla. He just keep filming his close-up eye. But in the US, they just freeze his eye, and they just freeze him, and the title reveals.
It's a subtle change, but I think the American cut comes out on top because the added sound effects and the freeze frame just makes that scene just is like, it's very dramatic. And to this day, I see it, and the eye widens. You hear that sound, the roar kicks in, the title pops up. Yeah, it's like yes, it pumps you up. You're like, yes, cinema is about to unfold before me. Yes, please.
Yeah, and also when Godzilla after he chews the boat in half, the sound effects in the US, they and I would love to bring this out, and they actually use some stock war from the TriStar Godzilla war in some scenes.
They use that same roar effectively too, I must say. It fits him.
It does fit.
Because otherwise the sound palette for this Godzilla is actually rather limited in the Japanese version. He has,
as is many other things.
Yeah.
In the version.
It's true, but the variation of the different roars was helpful, I think.
Yes.
Made him feel more alive.
And when this film came out in theaters in the US, and people get confused sometimes with this film. People thought this is a sequel to the 98 Godzilla film, but no, it is not.
No. They slapped the TriStar logo on it, and it confused people. And I honestly, in retrospect, I completely understand why. I think it's a natural mistake to make if you're not like into the fandom, into the genre, if you're not following along carefully. A year later, another Godzilla movie comes out from the same people. It's got that TriStar logo on it. You're going to confuse people. People are going to get confused. It's just going to happen. As a kid, when I saw the 2000 on the bottom, my instant thought, again, 6 years old, was there's no way there were 1,999 Godzilla movies before this one, right? my dad thought that was very funny, but I was trying to be funny about it, but I think he thought I was serious. I was a very sarcastic 6-year-old, but it's good stuff. It's good. A lot of good memories.
and I'm glad they finally released the original Japanese cut in US for the first time on a Sony Blu-ray disc, and yeah, like, and I gotta say, when I watched the Japanese version for the first time when it's first released on Blu-ray back in 2014, that same year that the first MonsterVerse Godzilla film was released, and yeah, I mean, and I just realized both versions, I mean, they had their own picture, frame, and color. Like, if you know what I mean, the color frames on each cut, like the original Japanese cut on the Blu-ray, it has the frame, the looks on it, it just looks a little green bluish color look to it on the screen on the picture, but in the US cut, they is it kind of looks the same as the Sony Blu-ray. I mean the DVD, I mean, but it's
Mhm.
added a little more reddish orange color frame to it a little bit. If you guys know what I mean or you got confused what I'm talking about, I mean,
The color grading for the movie. I believe that is that what we're talking about. We're talking about the movie itself.
yeah, the color frames. I
The
mean,
actual like the colors in the film. Sony's color grading for the Blu-rays of the Godzilla films are weird. Space Godzilla, I think, is the worst offender because if you look at the cut that's on the recent the 9 year, I can't believe it's been 9 years, the now 9-year-old Blu-ray that Sony put out for Space Godzilla,
yeah.
that it's got this color tint to it, this purple tint. If you look at the sunset scene where Godzilla's swimming away at the end, it's just like purple saturation.
Yeah.
And that's not how it looks. I have Japanese DVDs of the film and it looks like a sunset. It doesn't have any purple in it. It's weird, but the color grading for the Blu-ray versions of the two different versions, the American and the Japanese cut of 2000, are graded differently. And unfortunately, the Japanese version isn't as high a quality as the American version because that one I'm not entirely sure what the story is there, but the it's a little grainier for some reason. I guess they were just given somewhat subpar uh, film stock to work with. But so they do look a little different. They do look, this is off topic, but you know what I'd like to see? I don't know if this exists anywhere. I would love to see the Japanese version unedited with the entire original Omni dub. Because that doesn't exist anywhere that I know of. There are only, I
Yeah,
think, two lines in the American version that keep the Omni dub during the moment where the little restaurant gets destroyed. And the as long as the beer's cold, who cares? That's an Omni line that was kept in. Everything else was redubbed in America by TriStar. But there was an
yeah,
entire dub of the movie that was done by Omni because that's just what Toho did. They would ship the movies off to Hong Kong and they would dub them. I would love to hear that version. It would be so surreal to hear
yeah,
it in English with different voices
Mm,
with a different edit. Like that would be so weird.
yeah.
that would be
They
weird.
just I wish they could have kept the English dub audio to put it in the original Japanese uncut.
That
I
would have
just
been they did that with 1984 when Kraken Releasing put out
yeah.
Godzilla 1984. They
Yeah, they
uncovered the
did.
Omni dub of that film because Godzilla 1985, that version will never come out. It's not going to happen. I wish, but it won't happen. But if they could have done that with Godzilla 2000, I don't even know where they would find that. I don't believe it was released anywhere, so it's not findable. I've tried; it is not findable. um, that would have still have been a cool bonus. Sony wouldn't have put the work in to do that, but if they would have, it would have been cool. That would have been a weird bonus feature.
Yeah. And the American producer who produced the US cut was Michael Schlesinger.
Mhm.
I hope I'm saying his last name right. So he
Yes,
produced
Schlesinger, something like that.
yeah. What I hear in the audio commentary that when he was talking about the sound effects for Godzilla, that in some scenes they use the TriStar Godzilla's War in some scenes, but in the audio commentary they say that Michael Schlesinger says they didn't use Roland Emmerich's Godzilla's War. They say they didn't. but yeah, I think that's what they said in the audio commentary.
I hate to be that guy, but
They think that.
no,
Yeah,
that is clearly.
But they did though.
yeah,
They
they
did.
really did.
They did though.
They did. Sorry, Michael. You are misinformed, sir. I mean, far be it from me to talk to the guy who produced the English dub and tell him he's wrong, but sir, good sir.
My good sir. I know you're in denial. But
Yeah, and let's talk about the music. But the music score for this film was made by the same guy who directed the music for Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. And for the US cut, some of the scenes and parts were made by John Peter Robinson. Or I just call him Peter Robinson. Yeah, I mean,
he did great.
yeah, I just wish they could have kept his music score in the Japanese soundtrack, but you can still listen to his music on YouTube.
His full contribution to the American soundtrack is available as its own little mini soundtrack. I'm not sure if it exists physically anywhere. At least it's in print, but you can find it on YouTube. I have it all on a jump drive somewhere in my collection of nonsense. But yeah, I like his music for this film. I think especially during the Orga battle.
oh yes.
Yeah, especially when Orga first appears after.
Yes.
Yeah, it is the music part of that scene is so awesome. It actually gives me goosebumps and it makes my hair grow on my arms.
Oh, same. It's goosebump inducing. The Godzilla theme kicks in.
Yeah.
And also special shout out to the last scene where you hear Rodan's theme kick in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the ending part when they use Ghidra's theme and
I love it.
And I also love the music part when Io and his and her friend who was who works for them when they're driving, they're on the way to find her dad in the building. Peter Robson's music score for that part, it just amazed me. I love the piano music for that
it's very
scene.
good. I love that part.
That's a great part.
Yeah, I love it. And John Peter Robson, he also does the King Ghidorah theme from Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster at the end when Godzilla blows his Tommy brag on Nokawa. And before I get to more details of that part, I want to talk about I also forgot to mention about when Orga opens his mouth wide and that he opens his mouth wide open. Yeah, right there. And he just opening his mouth because he wants to tries to become Godzilla. And I love Godzilla's like, what the
I know. I love Godzilla's facial expressions are just like
and speaking of that, if you watch the bonus features of the behind the scene video and the special features on the Blu-ray DVDs, I mean, there was when they're filming the shot when Godzilla's use explosions on the one scene when they're doing a second shot when they had the camera on him, he does before they yell action, they give Godzilla a little head nod like. I laughed so hard at that part when I was watching the special features of the behind the scene video of that. I saw that was like funny. He does a little head nod when the suit actor was inside the suit.
Yeah, they have to be incredibly careful in those suits. They have little moments like that, little movements, because I mean these suits are 100, 150, 160, 200 pounds. And I mean, Tom Kitagawa almost died in that suit. I don't know how many times over his 5 Godzilla films. He almost drowned. He was, he suffocated a few times. I mean, these guys were no joke in those suits.
Yeah, and for that one part after Orga opens his jaw, when he bends his jaw down, the sound effect for that part is almost sounds like an anaconda sound effect.
It's very, that entire, again, completely different sound design from the Japanese version. It's got that, like when his jaw splits, it goes, it makes like this squishy, nasty, and then it makes this very, like this kind of weird, kind of uncanny, like whining kind of noise. I don't know how to do it. I mean, I don't think
it's hard to mimic. Yeah.
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 But you just heard us all try it, so you're welcome.
Yeah, and Orga is kind of like a recreation of Biolante, and it's just like in Biolante, and Biolante to open her mouth, it tries to eat Godzilla's head, but this one, Orga just opened his mouth wide open, and there's some tentacles on the side, and it was just all CGI. I mean, Orga had they made 3 suit versions of Orga. One for the open his mouth. I mean, the little tentacles on the side of his huge mouth. I mean, it's all CGI, and I love that scene. After Godzilla Wars, and he decided he just wants to go in there anyway. Like,
he was like, hey, let me see what you got going on in here. What you got going in here? No, I've been trying to become a dentist. I'm looking at. Let me see what you got.
And then the most awesomest thing that Godzilla actually uses is nuclear pulse attack.
His entire body lights up. I loved that part as a kid. Like, oh, wait for it.
Yeah, and then
and then after the explosion happens,
his eye gets wider.
Out, he roars, and then Orga falls over, and it's basically Godzilla just going like.
Yeah, and then after he roars,
down he goes, and then he crumbles away. But that entire moment where he puts his head in, and then he starts to glow, and you see Orga's eye get bigger, and then he almost has this oh crap moment.
Like, oh, what have I done?
And then the fire gets right to his head, and it's almost like I'm trying to think of a good example, but I don't know. It's just funny. He almost has like this oh crap, and then it's over. His head is gone, and at this point there have been multiple fake out endings with Orga too, where he gets blasted and then he comes out of the fire and he's still there. So when the camera pans up his body, you're almost like, oh come on, there's no way he survived that. Oh, he ain't got no
where's
head.
His head?
His upper half. I left it right here. Where did it go? It's gone.
He is now headless. Where is his head?
His head has been atomized. There's nothing left.
Yeah.
Epic.
And the most surprising moment that Godzilla just walks towards the main cast, and everyone has to evacuate except for Katagiri.
I think you mean Katagiri.
I've never seen Godzilla this close before.
Yeah. I never seen Godzilla this close before.
I'm just gonna sit here and light a smoke. And
I feel like he's like the main villain in this film, but apparently he's not like a villain. He's just trying to destroy Godzilla, and he's just.
I think the correct word you're looking for is antagonist. Like he's not necessarily a villain, but he goes against what the protagonist is trying to do.
I think he starts out as an antagonist, and then when he decides that it's totally okay to let Shinoda die in that building, then that's pretty villainous. That's where he
I'm gonna have to send more flowers.
Yeah, like
more flowers.
I love that line. I don't know why. It's so funny to me.
It is funny. It's just like
your network's history. I'll send flowers, and then he follows it up. I'm gonna have to send more flowers, man. And it's just such a jerky thing to do. Like he just doesn't care. He's like, I'm just gonna blow up this building. And then he what cracks me up all these years later, because as a kid I wasn't sure how much of the explosion of the building was his fault or the UFO, but his explosion barely damaged the building, and then the UFO is just like
I'll show you an explosion.
Peasants, bam, and it just raises
Yeah,
the
that
building.
was his big mistake.
Yeah, but the fact that Karagiri didn't care that this guy was in the building at that point, yeah, you're a villain.
Mm.
But at
Yeah,
the rest of it, like everybody, like we've had characters that have wanted to kill Godzilla that are not, villains in previous films, but this guy is so calculating, and so like single-minded. I mean, he's not a very like fleshed out character, but you know enough about him to know what he's thinking. He wants this monster gone. He thinks he can stare this, this godlike creature in the eye and come out on top. He thinks he can do it. He thinks it's his imperative to do it. But that's why I love the ending so much, because you can poke at it and be like, ha, he's not running. Why aren't you running, doof? You doofus. What do you just, then he kind of get it, it's funny, but there's something very poignant about it, because it's him realizing he can't look a god in the eye and win. It's a moment of, I got nothing. He has witnessed what this creature can do. He has watched it destroy this alien. He is in awe of this creature's power, and he realizes his goose is cooked. He's there's nothing he can do, and he feels his own size for the first time.
Yeah,
and he just kind of accepts his fate.
Yeah, but Godzilla just jacks his claw in the building, like
When that part came on in the theater, it startled me. I was like, "Whoa."
That's great.
yeah.
I wish I'd seen this in the theater.
And they
I'll be
try to
years later. I've never seen it in the theater. I need to.
They try to make him stay away from Godzilla. Like, come on! And he's like, leave me.
Leave me.
And he category. He just punched that guy in the face.
Jacks him, man.
Rude.
Ha-ha!
Yeah,
That little
and
laugh.
my favorite part, he just stares and he yells, Godzilla!
Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
And
It's
I
good
want to talk about that. Yeah, I laughed so hard at that part. I was surprised.
Who
It was
didn't
like
laugh at
shocking.
that? Everybody
It was so
laughed.
shocking, and but yeah, I know the classic US cut version of that part when he just keeps yelling Godzilla. Then when Godzilla dissolves, crashes like this, almost like dig his claws in the building, he collapsed some of it, and they make Katagiri fall, but he still's yelling Godzilla, and he goes through his echo.
Oh yeah, he
Yeah.
yells it until he can't yell anymore because he's dead. Like
Yeah.
there's a building on top of that man now.
But in the
Yeah.
but in the Japanese, that he yells Gojira, and then he stops yelling, and Godzilla just go ahead and just makes him crash, like he just makes him fall after he said Gojira. In the original Japanese cut, there's no echo sounds or long screaming, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. It's a completely different like audio experience, and I think the drawn out Godzilla as in the echo, I think that it makes it a little funnier, but it also makes it more dramatic. So
Yeah,
it
I like
works
the
both
Japanese
ways.
party was saying like Katagiri.
Yeah, he's a lot screechier in that one. He's like like he's really he's down.
Almost
He's devastated. Like
Yeah, it almost sounds like he's choking while screaming. He's like Katagiri.
yes. And then they pulled him up and gave him the Heimlich, and he was fine after that. They
Yeah,
saved
and
him.
then Godzilla just walks away. But in the Japanese version, when he was walking away, you could hear his footsteps. But in the US, you don't hear his footsteps.
And that's an interesting one. I could go either way on that audio difference because I love hearing the footfalls, but there's something about just hearing that. Perfect, nailed it. We all did.
That music part. It always makes me think of Halo, that classic Xbox
Honestly,
video
yes.
game. It kind of almost reminds me of that.
That's a good point,
And
but I love that. I love that music.
yeah, and speaking of Godzilla's footsteps, that one scene when Godzilla's made it onto shore, and when the military was waiting for him, when he was walking on the shore. I mean, when the military says, "Wait till he gets closer," but in the Japanese version, you don't hear Godzilla's footsteps in that part, but in the U.S., you do hear his footsteps.
The Japanese version is inconsistent with its sound design.
It really is. It
It
feels like
is.
something's missing.
Yeah, and this is just me noticing this as like a film fan. Cam, you've done like filmmaking and editing and stuff like that has to kind of like I'm not like
It
bother
bothers
you.
me.
Does it bother you? Okay, I was gonna say like this.
It does bother me. It really does.
Because that's
Like, I was
that's-
reluctant,
yeah.
like, yeah, should I watch the Japanese version? I don't know the sound design, the music. It's not good.
It doesn't work as well, and
No.
it's so bizarre in comparison, especially since there were so many people. Like we mentioned, Takayuki Hattori, who'd worked on the score for Space Godzilla. He would eventually go on to do the anime films as well. He's a great composer. His father scored for Akira Kurosawa. Fun fact.
Oh.
Yes, and you also have Takao Akawara directing. He directed a handful of Heisei flicks. So, like you have a fair number of people behind the scenes who knew what they were doing when it came to this stuff. And it's interesting. It's interesting how kind of odd the technical aspects outside of the visual effects. The visual effects are pretty great for the most part, but the music, some of the music choices and the audio editing, and then the actual editing of the film itself and the pacing, there's something. And for the longest time, I thought, well, it has to just be because I'm so used to the English version that I'm noticing the differences and it's distracting me. But all these years later, it's not so much that I'm being distracted by the other version. It's just I'm noticing that these are actual, like this is fat that wasn't trimmed. This was something that probably needed a second pass. Why aren't there footfalls in this scene, but then there are footfall sounds in this scene? Why
I think the very fact that the sound design in the Japanese version is so inconsistent, that is what makes it distracting.
That's what makes it distracting. And again, for a long time, I thought it was my nostalgia distracting me, but nope, it's the technical, shortcomings of the Japanese cut. And again, I love the Japanese version; it's great too. But
and
it could have been the U.S. cut. Like that's the thing. Like they did about 80% of the work, and then the American cut did the last 20.
Yeah, and well, I want to talk about the ending part after Godzilla destroyed Katagiri, and speaking of that, we're almost that time. So I want to talk about the ending after he destroyed Katagiri, and people discuss that they thought Godzilla is protecting humanity, but the guy says maybe because
Godzilla is inside each one of us.
But they were wrong. Godzilla continues to destroy Nakawawa. I hope I'm saying the city right. I mean, he just blows up the city. It looks like he's making a flame circle. He's just staying inside of a circle of flames.
Hi. Okay, I have a question. So when I saw, I want to know if I'm crazy or not. When I saw this in the theater, after he blows up, after he does the fire circles type thing,
drum roll.
There's a pop-up that says the end.
Ding, correct.
Yep.
Listen,
yep.
I was in the theater. It's not in the DVD cut.
You're not crazy.
Tell me I'm not crazy.
You're not crazy.
Okay,
You're not crazy.
Thank you. Thank you. I knew I remembered that.
That is a long-standing hang on, what's the word? The alternate reality. The
yes.
help me out. My
Mandela effect.
It's a Mandela thing where people are like, yeah, there was a question mark, the end. Like there's at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, no, there isn't. But that was included with some of the initial theatrical prints. It has not been seen again. And there was for a while the intention of following this film up with an all-American production that would have been a sequel, kind of sort of sequel to it, but they never ended up making that. That's a podcast for another time. But no, you are not crazy. That was a thing, and it has never been. It has never been
true.
out there, and the Japanese version doesn't have it either. It was just for the theatrical screenings. I think there are pictures of it out there that survive. Maybe even some like Blair Witch cam footage from 1999 of it in the inside of a theater, but it's never been re-released since. But it was real.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
And
Yes.
after the film was released, that Michael Schlesinger, the American producer, they thought the movie was so good that they released in U.S. theaters. They want Toho to make a sequel, and they released their own American cut version called Godzilla Reborn. I think that's, I don't know if I'm correct on that.
That is true. That is true. Godzilla Reborn would have been. I mean, I won't get into too many specifics of it, but they had this whole idea lined up for this Godzilla 2000 kind of sort of sequel with an all-star American cast, and they were going to go crazy on this. Like Schlesinger was like 100% into this, and he was like, okay, they can do Godzilla right at Toho, but we're going to take the ball and run with it, and we're going to do a better American version, and we're going to work with Toho. And he had this whole thing in his head. He was so excited, and it never went anywhere,
Nope.
which is a bummer.
It never
hand.
happened.
Who knows what kind of film it would have been, but man, would I have loved to have seen the people that worked on the American cut of Godzilla 2000 do something else, literally anything else, because I don't know what was in the water at TriStar in 1999 and 2000, but they pulled something amazing off with this cut, and I would have loved to have seen them do more.
Yeah, and before we wrap this up, I would like to talk about one more part. I mean, the green screening. I mean, they use a lot of green screening scenes when they're filming this. Because I mean, I think they use some miniature sets like they do in the Heisei, but some of them they just have Godzilla behind a green screen and they just paste him in on the fourth shot, and some of the graphics of those scenes are not as good looking.
There are a couple of matte shots that, again, I think they all look fine. I don't have a problem with any of it. I think especially for the time it was made and what the budget was. There are a couple of moments of matting in the film that are a little funky. There are a couple of moments with the UFO where they very clearly matted a still shot of it like this at one fixed point in the screen, and then they moved everything around it, or they would just have it do this, and it was very clear. It was very clearly matted in, like funky. Yeah. There are a couple of scenes of Godzilla walking like on the beach where he's very clearly matted in.
Where he walks like a black man. My family and I always made a joke that Godzilla was black.
That's so funny. Oh, that's good.
Let's see, he literally goes like this.
You're not wrong is the thing. Like that's perfect. I'll never be able to not see that. Somebody needs to like sync that up with I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good song that would go with, like if you put it in the background.
I'll think of something and I'll add it to my next edition of humorously edited Godzilla clips.
Do it. I'm serious. Just like give him like some like just like some sick beats. So yeah, hip hop. Give him some hip hop. Some sick beats in the background and just sync it up with him. Just like yo, like oh man, that's great. But I don't mind the matting. I don't mind the matte work in this.
Yeah, but listen, it does look a little funky, but you know what? Just like every other Godzilla film that came before this, it adds to the charm.
Yes.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, well, that's just about wrap things up, and I gotta say I want to thank you two so much for joining me in this episode, and you all are such good friends to me, and you guys are my best friends. We're like family.
We have a big old kaiju family, and I love it.
Yeah,
I love all my family members here.
Yeah, you're the kindest and bestest friends I ever had in my whole life. And
we're just making everybody cry.
Don't you start. You're gonna get me started.
No, God, you guys know. I said I wasn't gonna do this.
And I can't wait to meet you all at G-Fest soon.
I know we are so close. We are less than a month away.
Oh my gosh. G-Fest content is coming.
I'm so excited.
I can't wait to hang out with you all. And I already made a list of who well, I already made a to-do list who I hang out with from 1 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. and all blah 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 and all that.
All that fun
Yes.
stuff.
We're gonna be. It's gonna be a busy year. It's gonna be a busy
Yeah,
year.
and
I have 6. I'm on 6 panels this year.
yeah,
Last year you were on 8, like right?
Yeah, I messed up a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. I did 8 was more than enough. 6 is more than enough.
yeah.
And I mean, we'll probably end up talking about it here before we sign off. But I'm on a panel with Kim, and I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I can't wait to see hang out with Nathan and his Kaiju Ramen gang.
Yep, everyone will be there. Travis
Except
won't be
Travis.
there. Elijah will be there. Michael will be there. Who cares about Nate? But no, he will be there. We're all going to be palling around. I'm excited to see Nate again and Michael again and Elijah. All my peeps.
My boys, all my boys will be there.
Yeah,
All the boys. A
all,
couple people won't
all
be
of our
there.
bros.
A couple people. I'm sad. There are a few people that won't be there who I'm sad won't be there.
I know. So many of my friends are not going to be there.
Donnie won't be there,
Yeah,
man.
Oh,
Donnie will be there, and
Alyssa
and-
won't be there.
and Gochi Fan 1998
Yeah.
won't be there, and
Yeah,
Alyssa
Aw.
Goji Geek 101 will be there. My Kaiju sister.
I know. And the year Yumiko Shaku, her favorite, is here.
Yeah.
My first thought when I saw that she was coming, everybody was very excited. My first thought was sadness because I knew
Alyssa.
my first thought was she's not going to get to. But
Aw.
she's busy moving and I don't know, serving our country right now.
Well, yeah, that's a little more
she's-
important than
she's
a
got
convention.
bigger fish to fry. So
Yeah,
I know she already feels bad on that, but she'll be with us in spirit. Everybody will be with us in spirit. We'll
send them presents.
we will send them
Yeah.
presents. I have a couple of things I'm looking for a few people. Don't
And-
tell them. Don't tell those people.
and
But I'm looking for
and I'll bring some presents too for you guys.
Oh, you're gonna bring presents. You're
Yep.
gonna bring really?
Can't tell you what it is.
No, I don't want to know. It's
Okay.
got to be a
I want to be
surprise.
surprised. Yes.
Thanks,
Yep.
man. Now I'm like triple excited.
Oh,
Look at
yes.
Uh,
This is
presents.
awesome.
Presents for
Well,
everybody.
Presents.
Yep. And presents for everyone. And I'm kind of like Santa-zilla.
Santazilla
Fantazilla.
or Santa Oprah.
Yeah. well,
You get a present.
Everybody gets a present.
Does anybody even get that joke anymore, or am I just getting old? I don't know.
I'm older than both of you. Hush.
yeah. Well,
Oh man.
well, I just want to say thank you all again for joining me in this episode because since you two did a great job in my previous episode, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, was you were in Daniel, and Kaiju Kim, you were in Megalon episode, and yeah, so that's just about wrap it up. So until next time, so my next episode will be Godzilla versus Megaguirus from the year 2000. Yep. So until next time, as I say it in Japanese, sayonara.
Sayonara, everybody.
Sayonara.